Now, this, the fire that's in the teepee, it's off to the side. Why it's off to, and what the fire symbolizes, it's the heart of the woman, and she's the one that keeps the home. And our hearts are a little on the left-hand side of our cavity, chest cavity. So when you go into a teepee, that fire is not in the center, it's off, a little off to the right. So it's like a woman, like a human being, our hearts. It symbolizes the position of our hearts. And we love our children very much. And as partners, our family is very important to us. So it is the man that looks for the location of the land where we're going to stay, because he looks for good hunting ground to put food on the table, for lack of a better word, to bring food into the home. And then it's the woman to put the teepee up, to put it together. And they always do it with love. And when they move, they go into prayer first, because we don't do anything on our own. We always rely on the Creator and on our ancestors to direct us. So that's what we do, and we go to those areas where the food will be plenty. And all summer we gather everything. We gather our fruits, our berries, our roots, and our medicines, and we dry everything. And then we dry our meat, and we dry our fish. And with the meat, it's pounded into pemmican, and in order for it to be balanced, we put a little bit of fat from the animal and the berries for that sweetness, that fruit, to give balance to that food when we're busy and we don't have time to cook, or else when we're on the road. That's what sustains us. And what the woman will do is they'll have that. They'll gather the trees that are strong, sturdy, and straight to hold up the teepee. That's that foundation, and those are those poles. And then the animal is prepared to go around the teepee to keep us warm. And in the winter time, they use fur in the inside to keep the walls warm, and on the floor they put spruce boughs on the floor, and then they put their furs on there, and there's a cooking area, and the home is always clean. Always clean. Why? Because when the home is clean, we sit in that good place, we sit in balance. But when the house is messy and not looked after, that's the way we are inside. And that's the way we train our kids too. So if we sit in a good place and we look after our home in a good way, and the men bring the food into the home so that we will enjoy life that winter, everything goes smoothly. But when someone is sick and they can't hunt, well, we as a community stick together and help each other out. Even if it's to help them put up their teepee, help them with their food, because everything balances out. Because one day we may not be able to do that, so somebody will step in to help us. And that's what makes the community strong. Those homes, each pole signifies something. And those are the teachings the mother gives the children so they can be strong like those poles and to be able to take their rightful place in society and live in a good way and to raise their children in a similar manner. But when we put our teepee up, we smudge that area, we clean that area out, and we dig the holes, and we use tobacco to put into those holes, because we pray to those ancestors for the safety of our homes, so that we can have that good life while we're in that area. And then the poles get put in, and there's a rope that goes right around several times to make it strong, and then the women gather the skins, and then they put them on the teepee, and it's usually the buffalo skins that they used a long time ago, and they use the sinew and the bone to sew them together, and it's the women that do all that work, because the men have their own work to do too. And this is why a long time ago we worked like this, side by side with one another. The woman didn't go ahead of the man, or else the man didn't go ahead of the woman. We knew we were both sacred human beings, and we were here to help each other out, and we're here for a reason. So that's what they do. Because I know my dad helped my mother a lot, even though he was out working, because child rearing takes two people. It doesn't only take one. And math is very important when you put up a teepee, because they are certain lengths apart from one another, and they have to be a certain length, and they use their feet, and they have good eyes. They look at a tree, and they'll look at it to see how strong it is, how straight it is, and then they'll cut that tree down. But they know in here, that's the right size. And when those trees are brought down and they're put together, they all fit in nicely. Because not only do they use math, they use their intuition too. And their intuition will tell them that whatever tree they pick, and they feel that that's the right one, that's the one that they'll cut down, and that's the one that fits perfectly. And then they'll peel that tree, and then they'll put it together.
How many sticks do they use in teepees?
15.
15?
Yeah.
It's a common for all, let's say, all Saskatchewan, all Indigenous communities, or it can be different number?
It can be different, and there's usually a meaning to the difference too.
So in Saskatchewan, for example, on this land mostly, people use 15s, right? Or it can be again.
It can be different. Because there's a lot of intermarriages too, eh? So.
Could you please tell us, if it is comfortable with you, why 15? What is that? Why that particular number?
Well, we have the flaps too. When you open the flaps at the top, you need poles for that too.
So you said mostly people used to use bison skin?
Whatever skin.
Buffalo?
Yeah, or else they could use other animals too, because they use animals for blankets too. They use rabbit fur, they use they use buffalo. They don't take the hair off. And same with the bear. They can use that, or mink or otter. It depends on what's available at the time. That's what they'll use.
Are the old times, let's say, did people use different materials in winter and in summer, or mostly the same materials?
Well, in the summertime, they didn't need the inside lining. And
So the inside lining, that is mostly for keeping...
Wintertime.
For
to
keeping...
keep warm, because sometimes it was very harsh. And they knew what the winters were going to be like. If they were harsh, then they prepared for that. And how they knew that, it was either through dreams, visions, or they watched the animals. That's how they did a lot of the things. They watched the animals. It depended on where they built their home.
So
Up on a higher up, or right in the ground.
So it looks like the winter time, it was kind of like double walls, right? So it's kind of like isolation.
Yeah.
They made isolation.
Yeah. They used it like an insulation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
But the animals were good predictors. Same with the plants. Good predictors of what the winter would be like.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the farmers, they could tell by their crop, their onions, if the skins were very, very thick, they would say it's going to be a hard winter. If they were thin, it's going to be a mild winter. And same with the bees. Where are they going to hibernate for the winter? Will it be high up, or will it be closer to the ground? Because the snow is an insulation.
The winter time, how did they heat the inside? What materials do people use for heating the teepee inside?
Well, there was stones, and there was firewood too. And then they kept the door closed too. And the top part was kept open to let the smoke out.
Yeah, that was firewood burning.
And to circulate the air.
Yeah, that was firewood burning.
And to circulate the air.
And did people migrate winter time, or just they settled down in one place and they spent the entire winter in one place?
Mm-hmm. They settled in one place where the hunting was good, and then they gathered everything. And then it's hard to move in the winter time, because you can't put your teepees up in the wintertime. You can't, the mode of transportation was not that good. Even hunting was hard because they had the weather. The weather can be against you, and you'll be transporting children too. So there's all those things, and all the food. So, the dog sled can only do so much work.
How did they choose a place for teepee?
The land?
Yeah.
The men chose the area, and the women picked the site where, and it had to be close to water, a source of drinking water.
And it's usually people were making the teepees as a community, right? Or each family had the teepee, but usually the families try to keep together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And They had the clan system too, eh?
So, how many people usually lived in one teepee? The mother, father,
Yeah,
yes,
and the kids.
and children.
Yeah. And if the spouse of the grandfather dances into the spirit world, then the mother is invited to go and live with one of the family members, usually the oldest. Yeah. And if they like to share, then the mother will spend some time in one and move to the next one so that none of them are left out.
What was approximately, of course it can be different, but approximately what was the typical size of teepee? I mean, the area, height, how many maybe meters or something? I mean, in any units that you would say.
It depends on the length of the pole. Because they can make them wider too. Because the whole family has to live in there. And all their furs, all their belongings are in there.
And did they cook inside or outside of teepee?
In the wintertime, inside. In the summertime, there's always the option of cooking outside.
And the winter time, it's understandable. But summertime, how people keep the food? I mean, like specifically the meat product.
Dried.
Dry.
Yeah. Or else they eat their kill right away. And they do community kills too.
Sharing, right? Yeah.
There's still some communities that do that because it's very expensive to have some foods shipped in. I mean, they ship in those different meats, but they have their own traditional meats that they prefer.
So I suppose the winter diet and summer diet should differ, right?
Mm-hmm.
Different.
Yeah.
One more question. What did they use for light? I mean, the candles or what they had?
Well, they had the fireplace in the center.
That light.
And that never went out, and there was embers in the morning, and whoever woke up first would stoke the fire.
I've seen in some modern teepees definitely the windows. Did those old times the teepees have the windows? Do you know anything about that?
The door.
Oh, just the door. And the door was made of skin as well, right? And you mentioned about the animals. How did the people keep the animals like horses or dogs? I know dogs are fun with cold, but maybe horses or cows. How did they keep them winter time?
I don't know about the horses, but I know we had horses when I was very young, and my parents had a barn for that. But the animals, my dad kept his on a diet of fish. So whenever he had to go somewhere, he had a whole bunch of fish in his toboggan or his because then at nighttime he would feed his dogs.
And again, definitely people had this times, our times, I see that how people build the teepee. Several people together, they build the teepee. But old times, was it like just every family built their own, or the
Yeah.
community helped them together to build the teepee for this family and then for another family?
Well, that family will help their family member when it's time for them to move, and they're getting married. They'll help them with the teepee. But no, we don't live that lifestyle anymore because of residential school. We've lost the ability to parent. We've lost those teachings. So there's a lot of violence. There's a lot of addictions, and it seems that there's a lot of mayhem going around. And you go into those homes, they're not clean. It looks like a hurricane went in there, and that's how those people are. They're not well. So we have to, as a people, as a whole, help those people to make those changes, to come back home. That's why we have this university. It's to come back to our way of life. That doesn't mean we have to go and live in a teepee or use a dog sled as a mode of transportation, but to get back to our life teachings, to be kind to one another and to be honest and to live as a community and not to take advantage of one another.
Yeah, the purpose of for this book is that it's very interesting to learn about those people's knowledge. Yesterday I interviewed Preston about the dog sled, and he told me that people use the Inuit people. They use the fishes, as for sleds. Because the fish skin is smoother, much smoother than the wood. Mm-hmm. So those people, they knew that. They didn't know about the coefficient of friction, but they knew that. They noted that. That's very interesting. That's why, we want to use that information that not just now. The hundreds, thousands years ago, people knew about that. So that's the same about how to. I imagine the weather was probably about the same, but people could keep the fine temperature inside of the teepee, but outside it was minus 30 degrees. Mm-hmm. So, and people had that knowledge to do that. So that's where we want to, express that. That's the people have that knowledge for. Even those times.
Well, with the Inuit, they had their seal skin, and then at night they just turned them inside out because there was a lot of moisture in the inside. So, at the end of the day, when they're going to bed, they have to keep their shoes dry. So they position them close to the fire, not that close that they get dried up and everything, but close enough for them to dry.
One more question. Did they have any kind of did they use any transparent materials that daytime they would receive the sunshine? Or was it the entire scheme for teepees?
Well, there was no windows.
No windows. Okay.
And they would come out. They knew the importance, and they ate the right foods. They knew the foods to eat when when there was not that much sun out, because they had a balanced diet. The fish had the omega fatty acids that they needed, and the animals, the goose had a lot of fat. Other animals had their fat that they needed.
So that they knew which animals to eat which season to keep the balance.
Yeah, yeah. And it was dried. The meats were dried so that they don't go bad. They knew how to do things.
Okay, thank you very much. It was very interesting, really. As you mentioned, maybe later we can watch this video, and if you want to add something,
Yeah.
we can add it, and so we can edit it. Thank you very much. That was really, really interesting. Thank
Okay.
you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And you want me to finish signing this?
Oh yeah, just